Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the homeless population in Nashville, and we're fortunate to have with us two persons to talk about some of the challenges faced by the homeless population in Nashville. Ms. Clemmy Greenlee, and of course Ms. Greenlee is an activist, a person who is involved with the homeless population in Nashville, and a homeless person himself, Mr. Daniel Brown from St. Louis, Missouri, who will also talk about his efforts in terms of trying to better himself and move beyond homeless and some of the challenges that he has to face. And of course, Mr. Brown and Ms. Greenlee, let me welcome the two of you to the show this morning.
Thank you.
And to tell you how delighted we are, Ms. Greenlee, since you've been with us before, and Mr. Brown, to have the two of you here and to talk about what we consider to be one of the real problems, and it's sort of a persistent problem, and has been around as long as I can remember, but it's still here. And so let's have the two of you, and let's start with you, Ms. Greenlee, by having the two of you give us some information about your background and how you became involved in some of the activities that you're involved in. I think I introduced you as an activist and how you became involved. And of course, Mr. Brown will tell us about how he got to Nashville, Tennessee, and then we'll talk about homelessness in Nashville from that perspective.
All right. Okay. Well, I became involved because I was homeless myself for around almost 11 years. Just been off the streets almost 5 years now. Well, right at 5 years. Being a survivor from the streets and knowing that it's a necessity to have housing, food, and water, it brought back to my attention that it has to be an organization out here that really just deals with nothing but the homeless issues. I mean, of course, you know me from the Galaxy Star Drug Awareness Program, so that itself allowed us to deal with the homeless population. And that gave me a lot more education and a lot more teaching on it. And then came along this organization called Nashville Homeless Power Project. And when I found out it was ran and organized by homeless and formerly homeless individuals, it was like, oh yeah, you know, I like to be a part of that because it's real. The ones who are running it has experienced it themselves. And coming from the streets, like I said, of Nashville, living under the bridges, sleeping in the alleys, practically eating out of trash cans, learning how to survive out there without any system helping us, it was a hard-fought experience for me. And that itself brought me into wanting to do something about this.
Mr. Brown, you came all the way from St. Louis, Missouri. How did you get to Nashville, Tennessee?
I hitchhiked here.
All the way from St. Louis?
Yeah, I met a trucker when I was hitchhiking, and he brought me all the way in.
Well, is this your first city that you've stopped in, or have you moved around from one city to another?
I moved around to 2 other cities. I went to Dallas, Texas, and past Houston and all that. But this is about the second city that I came to.
So you've had experiences in Dallas and in Houston in terms of being homeless. What do you say in terms of when you look at the homeless population and the homeless situation in Nashville? How would you compare that to Dallas and to Houston from your own experiences?
Well, it's a whole lot bigger. They don't, in Dallas, they don't have, they homeless out like that, you know, and so it's kind of like wide out here, and it's getting worse and worse, here in Nashville.
Okay, and so it's when you say Dallas does not have its homeless out like that, what are you saying?
It conceal them some kind of way. You don't really see them.
You never can see the homeless.
Not in Dallas.
You know, I think that might be, Ms. Greenlee, one of the complaints that a lot of folks make. That, as a matter of fact, it's one of the complaints that I make in terms of the homeless population, because when we start talking about a count, how many people are we actually talking about from your project and things that y'all talked about?
Oh, close to 5,000. I know we had counted last time, we was at 4,200, but we're not counting the ones that's in the hospitals, in jails, in hotels, or just sleeping on their kinfolk's couch or strangers' couches. It's a big problem with us homeless people laying around everybody's yard, in front of their businesses, and on bus stops, even in your cars. But we have let them know that it's not but one way to solve this, and that is to give us low-income housing. You'll keep fussing about how the homelessness is lazy bums, don't want nothing, don't want to work, but you're not really looking at that this is not our fault. This system has really got us caught up in where we're at. A lot of people didn't just wake up and say, I want to become homeless. A lot of people lost their jobs and couldn't afford to get back on track. A lot of people made a mistake like me 12 to 20 years ago and got a felon on they racket and just couldn't get it expunged. So now 30 years later, you get ready to have a job or have housing, you get turned down because of your felon. A lot of people have mental status that they just can't get the health service that they need. So I'm just here just crying out to the community that I think it's time for this generation to stop focusing on how lazy, how bums is.
And Ms. Greenwood, let me interrupt here for this first commercial break, after which we'll be back and continue this conversation. We'll be back with you following this short commercial break. Talking to Ms. Clemmy Green, who